Claire Thompson had always believed that life was meant to be lived fully, with passion and purpose. Yet at 42, she often felt as if love had quietly passed her by. Her apartment in Boston was warm and welcoming, filled with paintings, books, and memories. Each corner a testament to the life she had built for herself, one of stability, achievement, and independence, but also one of quiet longing. She had friends who were loyal, careers that inspired her, and a routine that kept her life organized, yet the nights sometimes felt too quiet. And the thought of being alone indefinitely crept in, despite her best efforts to dismiss it. Dating had never been easy. Men her age often seemed either intimidated by her success or indifferent to her presence, treating her experience as a limitation rather than a strength. She had learned to laugh off the subtle dismissals and patronizing remarks, but each one left a faint sting. A reminder that society often equated youth with desirability and dismissed the depth and richness of someone like her. Yet, despite it all, Claire had not given up on the possibility of love. She believed it could arrive when least expected, quietly, softly, like the turning of autumn leaves. And she carried hope in her heart even when the world seemed to suggest otherwise. It was on a crisp October evening, at a charity gala hosted in a historic Boston hall, that Ryan Mitchell first noticed Claire. The room was buzzing with chatter and laughter, the golden lights reflecting off crystal chandeliers, casting a warm glow over everyone present. Ryan, 37, had the kind of presence that drew attention effortlessly. He was tall, confident, with a smile that made people trust him immediately. Yet, beneath the surface, he was observant, analytical, and thoughtful, not prone to impulsive gestures or superficial flattery. When his eyes fell on Claire, something about her stopped him in his tracks. She stood near a painting, her posture poised, laughing at a comment from someone in her circle. Her hair caught the light, her eyes sparkled with intelligence, and her smile was genuine. Ryan, however, immediately recognized that people would probably judge her by her age. He had grown up in a world where youth often defined beauty and charm, and he, like many others, initially assumed that someone in their 40s would be less vibrant, less desirable. Yet he could not take his eyes off her. There was a vitality in her presence that defied assumptions, a quiet confidence and elegance that made him rethink his first impression. He watched as she moved through the room, chatting with ease, engaging with genuine warmth, and he realized that her laughter alone held more life and energy than many of the younger women he had met. Claire, meanwhile, noticed him too. She recognized the way his gaze lingered, not in a predatory or flirtatious way, but with a curiosity that made her both wary and intrigued. She had grown accustomed to attention that felt hollow, compliments that were only skin-deep, and flattery that lacked substance. But there was something different in the way Ryan observed her quiet interest. The subtle respect in his expression, as though he was trying to understand her rather than simply admire her from a distance. She felt a mixture of caution and curiosity, unsure whether this was genuine or just polite intrigue. She reminded herself not to get her hopes up. Yet she could not deny that the spark of excitement had been ignited, and it lingered in her chest like a small, steady flame. Over the next several weeks, chance meetings became intentional ones. Ryan would call, inviting her for coffee, asking for her advice on minor design choices, or suggesting casual walks through the city. Claire was careful at first, keeping her heart shielded, unsure if his attention was fleeting or genuine. But each meeting revealed layers of Ryan's personality that drew her in. He was intelligent, attentive, and surprisingly candid. He listened with a patience that was rare in her world, asking questions that demonstrated curiosity rather than judgment. He remembered the smallest details of their conversations, the way she liked her coffee, the books she enjoyed, the paintings she admired, which made her feel valued and noticed in a way she had not experienced in years. One particularly memorable afternoon, Ryan invited her to a local gallery to see a new art exhibition. The gallery was small and intimate, the walls adorned with paintings that depicted love, loss, hope, and resilience. As they walked together, Ryan paused to admire a painting of a woman gazing out a window. A subtle melancholy in her posture, and he turned to Claire. "It reminds me of someone I know," he said, smiling lightly. Claire raised an eyebrow, curious, unsure if he was joking. "Who?" she asked. Ryan's eyes softened as he said, "You? Not because of sadness, but because there's so much beneath the surface. You carry life in every quiet gesture." Claire felt her cheeks flush, a mixture of embarrassment and a warmth that spread through her chest. No one had ever expressed themselves to her in such a thoughtful and nuanced way. It was not about appearance or it was about presence, about authenticity. That evening, after they left the gallery, they walked along the cobblestone streets of the city. The autumn air cooled against their skin. The conversation flowed easily, laughter spilling naturally, and yet there were moments of silence that spoke volumes. Ryan did not feel the need to fill the space with empty words. And Claire appreciated the comfort of being able to exist in silence with someone without tension or awkwardness. It was a rare feeling, one she had almost forgotten existed, the sense of being fully understood and simultaneously intrigued by another person. She found herself opening up in ways she had not anticipated, sharing stories of her childhood, her ambitions, her past heartbreaks, and her dreams for the future. Ryan listened intently, never interrupting, never offering platitudes, simply absorbing her words and responding with thoughtful reflections. Each story, each laugh, each sigh seemed to deepen a connection that neither had expected, but both felt increasingly undeniable. Yet, despite the growing bond, Claire's mind was a battlefield of doubt and hope. She had been judged before, dismissed before, and she knew the world could be cruel in its assumptions. Could a man like Ryan genuinely see her for who she was, beyond societal expectations and superficial judgments? She questioned herself, wondering if her age, her life experience, or even her independence would intimidate him once he realized how fully formed she was. She had spent years learning to value herself, built a life that was rich in its own right, and the thought of being misunderstood or underestimated gnawed at her. Still, there was a pull toward Ryan she could not deny. A magnetic attraction not rooted in physicality alone, but in the emotional resonance she felt when he was near. Days later, Ryan surprised her by showing up at her office with a small envelope. The city outside buzzed with the hum of traffic, but the moment felt suspended, charged with anticipation. "Read it when you're alone," he said, his voice tinged with a nervousness that was rare for him. Claire accepted the envelope, her fingers trembling slightly. The weight of it in her hand, a tangible symbol of the vulnerability between them. When she opened it later, the letter inside was carefully written, full of sincerity and honesty. Ryan confessed his admiration, explaining that while he had initially misjudged her based on age, he had come to realize that her experience, her wisdom, and her authenticity were what made her truly captivating. He admitted that he had developed feelings for her, feelings that went beyond superficial attraction, and that he wished to explore a connection that honored both of their lives fully. Claire read and reread the letter, emotions swirling in a tumult of hope, fear, and longing. She felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, a mix of joy and disbelief. Could it be true? Could a man like Ryan, so confident and seemingly assured, genuinely value her for the person she was, not for what society expected her to be? The letter was a revelation, a turning point. A moment where possibility and reality collided in a delicate, exhilarating dance. Her heart ached in the best possible way, a mixture of anticipation and vulnerability, as she considered the path ahead, even as she folded the letter and set it aside. The world outside continued in its usual rhythm, indifferent to the quiet drama unfolding in her heart. But inside her, something had shifted irrevocably. There was excitement now, a glimmer of hope that love was not only possible, but imminent. She found herself imagining what it might be like to share moments with Ryan, to walk through life with someone who saw her fully, who appreciated the layers of her existence rather than dismissing them. The thought made her pulse quicken and a smile tug at her lips, a smile that lingered long after the letter had been set down. In the days that followed, Claire noticed small gestures from Ryan that deepened her intrigue. He would leave notes at her favorite coffee shop, sometimes quoting lines from poems or books he knew she loved, other times simply expressing that he was thinking of her. Their conversations grew longer, more intimate, and more revealing. They discussed art, life, ambition, regrets, and dreams, with a fluidity that felt natural, effortless, and genuine. With each encounter, Claire felt layers of doubt peeling away, replaced by trust, curiosity, and the stirring of affection she had thought dormant. The turning point came unexpectedly on a rainy afternoon. Ryan called, asking her to join him for a walk despite the drizzle. She hesitated, glancing out the window at the wet streets, but something inside her urged her to say yes. As they walked under umbrellas through the glistening streets, he shared a story from his childhood, a memory filled with laughter and vulnerability. Claire found herself laughing, truly laughing, in a way she had not done in years. And then, as they paused beneath the soft glow of a street lamp, Ryan looked at her with an intensity that made her chest tighten. For the first time, she sensed that his admiration was not casual, not fleeting, but real, heartfelt, and deeply rooted in who she was. Claire realized then that the story of being underestimated, judged too soon, or dismissed based on age might be changing. Here was a man who saw her, really saw her, in all her complexity and wanted to know more. She felt a stirring of courage alongside her anticipation, knowing that the next steps could open a new chapter in her life, one filled with excitement, possibility, and emotional connection. The flutter in her heart was unmistakable, a sign that love might indeed be closer than she had ever imagined, and that sometimes the most profound connections arise when assumptions are set aside and hearts are open. As the rain eased, and the city lights reflected in puddles along the streets, Claire walked home with a sense of exhilaration and cautious hope. Ryan's presence lingered in her thoughts, in her heartbeat, and in the quiet smiles that appeared unbidden. She could not predict what lay ahead, whether their connection would flourish into a lasting bond. But one thing was certain. For the first time in years, Claire felt seen, valued, and alive in a way that reignited her belief in love and the unexpected ways it could arrive. And deep down, she knew that the next chapter, whatever it held, was waiting just beyond the turn of the street, ready to unfold with the same gentle certainty that had brought Ryan into her life. Claire Thompson had spent the night turning Ryan's letter over in her mind, reading it again and again until the words became both comfort and challenge. He had admitted feelings she hadn't dared to hope for, feelings that went beyond admiration or surface attraction. The honesty in his words stirred something deep inside her, a mixture of excitement, vulnerability, and cautious optimism. She knew that letting herself trust Ryan fully would require courage, yet there was a spark she could not ignore. For the first time in years, her heart felt open, alive, and ready to explore the possibility of a connection that mattered. The morning sunlight streamed through her apartment windows as she sipped her coffee, the city outside moving with its usual rhythm. Yet Claire felt suspended in a world where only her thoughts and feelings existed. She considered calling Ryan immediately, but something inside whispered to take her time, to let her emotions settle and to approach the next step with clarity. Instead, she composed a careful reply, expressing gratitude for his honesty and acknowledging that she was curious about the connection forming between them, but that she wanted to understand him more, to truly see him as he had seen her. Pressing send, she felt a mix of nervous anticipation and relief, a delicate tension that signaled the start of something potentially transformative. Ryan's response was almost immediate. His words were warm, full of excitement, but measured with patience and respect. He suggested meeting later that week, inviting her to dinner at a quiet restaurant he favored, somewhere that encouraged conversation and the ease of being present with one another. Claire accepted, her heartbeat quickening at the thought of spending time with him in a setting that allowed for intimacy without pressure, connection without expectation. The days leading up to the dinner were filled with an unusual lightness for Claire, a sense that the world had shifted subtly, tilting in a direction that made her feel noticed, valued, and intriguingly desired. When the night of their dinner arrived, Claire felt a mix of nerves and excitement. She chose an outfit that was elegant yet understated, reflecting the confidence she had cultivated over the years. The restaurant was intimate, with soft lighting and quiet music that set the tone for conversation. Ryan arrived early, his smile warm, his eyes bright with anticipation. There was a nervous energy about him, subtle yet undeniable, that mirrored her own. As they sat across from each other, the initial awkwardness melted away quickly, replaced by laughter, shared stories, and genuine curiosity about each other's lives. The conversation flowed naturally, shifting from art to travel, from childhood memories to future dreams. Each exchange revealed layers of character, humor, vulnerability, and strength. Drawing them closer with every word, Claire found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't with anyone in years. Ryan was attentive without being overbearing, playful without being shallow, and sincere without being formal. He asked questions that showed he remembered the small details of their previous conversations. Gestures that conveyed thoughtfulness and attentiveness. When she spoke about her career, her voice carried pride and passion. And he responded with genuine admiration, never condescending or dismissive. When she shared moments of past heartbreak or disappointment, he listened with quiet empathy, acknowledging her experiences without attempting to fix them, showing respect for her journey and resilience. After dinner, Ryan suggested a walk through a nearby park, the city lights reflecting off wet pavements after a brief evening rain. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and the faint aroma of nearby bakeries. Walking side by side, their conversation deepened further, touching on hopes, fears, and the ways their lives had shaped them. Claire noticed the small gestures Ryan made, adjusting his pace to match hers, glancing at her with genuine interest, laughing at her jokes in a way that felt heartfelt and uncontrived. She realized that attraction was not merely physical, but emotional and intellectual, a connection that resonated with the full spectrum of her being. Ryan paused near a fountain, the water shimmering under the streetlights. "I've been thinking a lot about your letter," he said quietly, his gaze soft and unwavering. "About you, about us. And I keep coming back to the same thought. I want to be part of your life, if you'll let me. Not to change it, not to rush it, but to share it." Claire felt her chest tighten, a mixture of joy and vulnerability stirring within her. She looked into his eyes and saw sincerity, patience, and an emotional honesty that left her heart fluttering. It was rare to encounter someone willing to invest in knowing her fully, without expectation, without judgment. In the weeks that followed, Claire and Ryan's connection deepened naturally. They spent time exploring the city together, visiting galleries, walking along the river, attending small concerts, and trying new restaurants. Each outing was an opportunity to learn more about one another, to laugh, to share, and to build trust. Ryan's gestures were consistently thoughtful. A book she mentioned wanting to read left on her doorstep, a note expressing appreciation for a moment they had shared, a message checking in after a long day. These actions reinforced Claire's growing belief that Ryan's admiration and affection were genuine, grounded in understanding and respect rather than fleeting infatuation. Claire herself began to open up in ways she had resisted for years. She shared her childhood dreams, the moments that shaped her, her fears of being judged or dismissed, and the lessons she had learned through heartbreak and resilience. Ryan responded with equal openness, recounting moments of vulnerability, mistakes, and aspirations that revealed depth and honesty. In these exchanges, Claire felt a rare sense of intimacy, a bond built not on superficial charm, but on the shared courage to be seen authentically. One afternoon, Ryan invited Claire to his apartment to share a quiet evening of cooking together. The space was warm, filled with personal touches that reflected his character, books, art, and mementos from travels and experiences. Cooking together became a playful, collaborative activity filled with laughter, minor disasters, and small victories. As they prepared the meal, they talked about everything from favorite memories to future dreams. exploring the nuances of each other's personalities. Claire felt herself relaxing completely. The walls she had built around her heart softening in response to Ryan's consistent attentiveness and care. After dinner, they settled on the couch with cups of tea, the conversation turning naturally toward emotions and connections. Ryan reached for her hand, a gesture both gentle and deliberate. Claire did not pull away. Instead, she allowed herself to lean into the warmth, the comfort, and the certainty of his presence. It was a moment of quiet affirmation. Love was not about grand declarations or dramatic gestures, but about being fully present with someone who saw, valued, and respected you. Claire felt a profound sense of relief and joy, a recognition that she could trust this connection, that it had the potential to grow into something lasting and meaningful. As autumn turned to winter, their relationship continued to blossom. Snowfall created opportunities for spontaneous walks, cozy evenings by the fire, and playful moments of shared wonder. Ryan introduced Claire to aspects of his life she had not known: friends, favorite places, and cherished traditions, while Claire shared her own experiences, passions, and routines. Through these exchanges, they discovered compatibility not only in interests but in values, humor, and emotional depth. Every interaction strengthened the bond, creating a foundation of trust, admiration, and affection that was both exciting and comforting. Claire noticed subtle changes in herself as well. She felt more confident, not because she needed validation, but because being seen and appreciated for who she truly was reinforced her own sense of worth. She laughed more freely, embraced vulnerability without fear, and allowed herself to imagine a future where love was not fleeting or conditional, but sustaining and mutually nurturing. Ryan's consistent attention, patience, and emotional honesty created a safe space for her to explore feelings she had long suppressed, encouraging growth, connection, and joy. One evening, as they walked along a quiet street illuminated by warm lights, Ryan paused and turned to Claire. "I know we haven't known each other for long, but I feel like I've known you forever. You've changed the way I see life, the way I see love. I never expected to meet someone like you, someone who challenges me, inspires me, and makes me want to be better." Claire felt a lump in her throat, emotions swirling in a mix of happiness, disbelief, and hope. She realized that Ryan's feelings were not casual or fleeting, they were deep, considered, and rooted in understanding who she truly was. The realization made her heart swell with a sense of connection she had longed for but never fully believed possible. Winter brought opportunities for shared traditions and new experiences. They celebrated holidays together, exchanged thoughtful gifts, and supported each other through challenges. Ryan was consistently attentive, encouraging Claire's independence while simultaneously creating moments of closeness, intimacy, and emotional sharing. Their bond was built on respect, trust, and mutual admiration, creating a dynamic that felt both secure and thrilling. Claire discovered that the most meaningful aspects of love were not grand gestures or fleeting passion, but consistent care, attentive listening, and the joy of being fully known and valued. Throughout this time, Claire's friends and family noticed a change in her. She was more radiant, her laughter more spontaneous, her outlook on life infused with optimism and warmth. Ryan had not only brought romance into her life, but had inspired a deeper sense of confidence, self-respect, and joy. Their connection was a reminder that love could arrive at any stage of life, that being past one's prime was a notion rooted in society's shallow expectations, rather than in the reality of human connection and emotional depth. Claire's experience with Ryan illustrated that love was not bound by age, but by willingness to see, understand, and celebrate the fullness of another person's existence. Spring approached, bringing with it longer days, warmer weather, and new possibilities. Claire and Ryan continued to explore the city, engage in creative projects together, and nurture their emotional bond. Each moment strengthened their relationship, transforming admiration and curiosity into deep affection, trust, and a sense of partnership. Claire realized that the journey to this connection had been marked by patience, courage, and the willingness to remain open. Despite previous disappointments and societal expectations, she understood that love, when genuine, required vulnerability, attentiveness, and the readiness to embrace another person fully, including their past, present, and potential future. On a particularly warm afternoon, Ryan took Claire to a quiet overlook. The city sprawled beneath them, bathed in golden light. He turned to her, eyes bright, voice gentle. "I fell for you not in spite of your life, but because of it. Every experience, every story, every piece of who you are drew me in. I want to continue this journey with you, to discover what we can build together." Claire felt tears prick at her eyes, a mixture of gratitude, joy, and awe. She had waited, hesitated, and wondered if such a connection was possible. Now, standing beside him, she realized that the reward for patience, openness, and trust was the kind of love she had always imagined but never dared fully to hope for. The realization was simple yet profound. Love had no timeline, no expiration date, and no rigid boundaries. It arrived when hearts were ready, when connection was mutual, and when both people were willing to embrace vulnerability, trust, and understanding. Claire felt a sense of completeness, not because her life had been lacking, but because it had led her to this moment with Ryan, with love that was deep, thoughtful, and transformative. Walking back from the overlook, hand in hand, Claire felt a lightness she had not known for years. The city lights shimmered around them, reflections dancing in puddles left from a passing rain. She knew the journey ahead would have its challenges, as all relationships did, but she also knew that they had laid the foundation for something enduring, meaningful, and full of joy. Ryan had seen her, truly seen her, and she had allowed herself to be seen in return. That mutual recognition created a bond that was unshakable, a love that was as gentle as it was profound. And so, as spring blossomed fully around them, Claire Thompson and Ryan Mitchell continued their story, a narrative not defined by age, assumptions, or expectations, but by honesty, patience, and the courage to embrace love when it arrived unexpectedly. Claire's heart, once cautious and guarded, now beat with a renewed sense of hope and excitement. She had learned that life's most beautiful connections often come when least expected, and that love in its truest form was not fleeting or conditional, but patient, understanding, and enduring. Together, they stepped forward, ready to explore the future hand in hand, hearts aligned and spirits open to the possibilities that awaited.